Carl and Liam here from Games, Brains and a Head-Banging Life, doing something brand new for you. We're going to be talking through episode by episode, the 4 seasons of the original Goosebumps show that ran from 1995 to 1998. Peak ages for us, because you might be thinking, well, what is the point of a 36-year-old man talking about Goosebumps now? But I did grow up with this stuff. I grew up with it. In fact, I collected the books for a very long time. And then when I had my son and he was old enough, I kind of imparted the knowledge on him. So I've ended up with up there, quite a few of the Goosebumps books are still up there. And it's kind of like a series that I kind of hold in my heart, particularly and you might be able to remember this, back when we didn't really have like money and stuff like that, we had a video, and I think it had the I can't remember the name of the episode, but the one involving like the British medieval one or something like that. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I swear we had like, it was like a big like double like tape box or something like that. But yeah, that's cool. You still got some of the same books, like the ones you had from when you were younger on the shelf.
I genuinely don't know. I've had this with my wife where I'm like, what on earth? Like, I obviously reached an age where I was like, oh, I'm too cool for this.
It's and one of those things that got put in the loft or something and just got thrown out. Like our parents were terrible for keeping things of value. Like they get stored away, and they wouldn't understand how they can accumulate value over time, would they? You know.
I would have loved to have kept them. Now I'm older. I'm like, oh, I should have kept that shit. But you know, it is what it is.
I think your interest in the books is actually something that got me into it. Like I remember seeing you used to read them and stuff, and then I kind of like saw the covers and thought they looked pretty cool. So that kind of got me into it. I remember reading them in the library back in the day in school. It's kind of the sort of thing they'd always find in a library in a school somewhere, tucked away, you know, because there's so many of them, isn't there? And the covers are always will jump out at you, you know.
And they are what they are. They are children's horror books, early teenage horror books. Some have darker themes than others. You'll see this as we go through the first set of episodes, that some have much more interesting horror-based episodes compared to other ones that are so light in it and on that aspect. So it is going to be a mixed bag. And we're going to talk through the episodes, beginning with episode 1 and 2, which is this video, the episode 1 and 2, because it is a two-parter. There are some that are two-parters, and this is a two-parter. Now, did you notice that Goosebumps, the TV series, season 1 is on Netflix?
Yes.
But missing 6 episodes, including this one.
That's true, and I was surprised that this one wasn't on there, because building up to this, I thought easiest way to consume Goosebumps, because I actually had the DVD set of them of all the episodes, but I thought check it out on Netflix because it's on there, and I was quite surprised that at first it was only 1 season, and then that this episode is missing, considering it's probably one of the more famous episodes, you know.
6 in total. 6 are missing in total. There's 19 in season 1, but Netflix only has 13, which I scratched my head over why, you know?
That's strange. That's very strange.
Yeah, and of course, obviously, Goosebumps had a bit of a revival a few years ago when we got the Goosebumps movie that starred Jack Black. The first movie is very entertaining. I do actually recommend it if you're a fan of the show. The second one, I think, was not needed. And it seemed to reflect that by the general opinion of audiences as well.
Yeah, it's true. I think the first one's not too bad. I haven't seen the second one.
Okay.
But I think, even though I'm a fan of Jack Black, I thought it was quite questionable casting him as R.L. Stine, the author of Goosebumps. I just thought, I guess he's good in like family movies. He's funny and whatnot, but just it was kind of like a weird casting for me. I don't know how R.L. Stine is in real life, but the brief snippets I've ever seen of him in the, where he opens some of the episodes, it didn't really like seem Jack Black really captured his personality. To me anyway, but
I can't comment on it either. It's Jack Black. I like Jack Black. Seems like a good dude. And
I love Jack Black.
yeah. So like, there's no arguments in that front. But of course, we are going back to the 90s for this. So season 1, episodes 1 and 2, The Haunted Mask, directed by Timothy Bond. Before we get into the actual episode, did you remember this one? Well,
I think The Haunted Mask, at least part 1, is super memorable. It's definitely stands up for me as if you spoke to the average person on the street that maybe grew up watching Goosebumps, I think this might be the first one that'd pop into their head. Just because I don't know if you remember, but like when it first aired back on TV back in the day, it was kind of like an event episode. It wasn't like just your average episode because it has that whole thing with R.L. Stine in the beginning of the episode where he introduces it, and like your average episode wouldn't have that. So I remember it being like, I swear, it was like advertised quite a lot and stuff when it first aired. I'm like old enough to remember that. Yeah. So and it used to be on this channel called Fox Kids. I don't know if you remember it,
Oh my
but like
God.
yeah, that's how I used to watch it. And I remember it would be like the kind of thing that would air quite late at night because like it's kind of risque for kids in it. They'd be like the kind of it'd be like the last thing they'd show and then it'd go off the air the channel because Fox Kids always had like things that are more for teens rather than like channels like Nickelodeon or Disney. And yeah, I remember seeing it
God.
advertised loads and loads back in the day. So I think it was quite an event. Yeah.
I think it makes sense as well. You're right about him introducing this episode and other ones like this, is because there are some heavy hitters and ones that where he returned to the well a few times. E.g., there are sequels, and the Haunted Mask is one that has definitely at least 2 sequels. I'm not sure if it went past 3.
I know there's obviously the second part that they made into like an episode for the show, but did they ever do 3? I'm not sure. Did they?
In book form, I believe. Not.
Yeah,
I don't know if
book
it's
form, yeah.
TV show form.
I think it was obviously, sorry. Yeah, it was obviously one of his more successful like running stories because normally they're the ones that get the sequels. You know, obviously like Night of the Living Dummy and things like that. Stay Choose and Die, they get the sequel treatment. And I think this, yeah, I just think this is probably one of the more well-known ones. You can't really like judge that for sure, but I think if you blow anyone on the streets, like I said, and ask people, I think this might be one that pops into the head.
Well, it is one of the books I have. If you want to see what the original Goosebumps books look like, they look something like that, where this part is kind of raised, and all of them had the same thing, where it was always the theme in the center. Love that.
Yeah, the whole bubbly feel to it.
Yeah. $3.99
cool,
back in the day.
Also, based on that picture, they did a fairly decent job of recapturing it. I mean, it obviously looks kind of different. It's a green mask with sharp teeth, isn't it? But, you know.
I think the mask in this actual episode looks particularly great. I think it's one of the strongest parts of it. But we'll go through it now. As I talk through, if there's anything you want to add or something you got to say, by all means, interrupt. And we begin with a pair of young girls out one evening, and they come across a new mask store just in time for Halloween. One is Carly Beth, played by Catherine Long, and she's taken in by the masks in the window. You know, it's your old-fashioned store that appears to have just opened up. Antiques, horror stuff, that kind of thing. You know, kids are naturally going to stop and be fascinated by it. Simple stuff. The girls are watched, though, by the shop owner, who's played by Colin Fox, who has, it's weird, he's got makeup on that's trying to give him this weird complexion, and obviously to have these sort of warts that are growing on his cheek. It's fine.
Used to freak me out, and I know, like when I was younger, obviously I was just when I was quite young, but just those warts on his face used to always like weird me out. I don't know why.
When he popped up on screen, I was like, "Oh shit, I remember this guy. I remember him."
He plays it like really serious as well, doesn't he? Like in some of the episodes, you know, some of the actors they like quite hammy. Obviously, it's that kind of show, but he like really plays it straight and serious. So I think he does a good job of like coming across as like a proper like creep.
So the girls have gone to get a late night pumpkin and are kind of scaring each other. And as Carly Beth goes to get a pumpkin, a hand reaches up and grabs her. Now, Goosebumps has this really interesting thing where it does, where something scary will happen and it will fade out.
I found a good one.
Now,
yeah, ad break.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because I was like, surely there wasn't 3 or 4 ad breaks per episode.
Yes, they're only about 22 3-minute episodes, and like, yeah, I remember they were all like you'd have at least 2 ads.
Yeah, because it happens at least 3 to 4 times per episode. So I suppose, yeah, it makes sense. And the first one is here, but
yeah, it was like a reoccurring theme, wasn't it? To do that whole like sort of cliffhanger of what the scare would be, and then you'd have to wait to come back off commercial break to find out what it was. Yeah.
And eventually you'd realize there was a theme that these sort of early scare attempts, well, it's like, this is the beginning of it. There's nothing scary. Goosebumps' entire thesis is basically build. Here's your shock ending, reveal, twist, all these different things at the end, rarely through the show. And of course, she's just been scared by 2 boys who have pumpkins on their head and doing scary stuff. Chuck, played by Amos Crawley, and Steve, played by George Davis. Carly's best friend, Sabrina, played by Catherine Short, tries to tell her that she wasn't involved. And Carly Beth is quite upset and all that, and recaps the other times the boys have tried to scare her. And this is where Sabrina points out, well, look, you're so easy to scare. Hence why the boys and others pick on her. Carly Beth goes home, and Carly Beth's mother shows her a mask she made, one of Carly Beth's face. And it's probably the scariest thing in this fucking episode. What the hell?
Yeah. That's definitely a weird one. Not sure what she was thinking there. I guess her heart was in the right place, but just I can't imagine making. I mean, strange.
It is.
Hey, come here. I want to show you something. Check it out.
Mom, it's me. This face is me.
I finished it today in art class. Oh, it's plaster of Paris, so be careful. It's hollow.
Carly Beth then thinks the mask smiled at her, just to hammer point how easy she is to scare. Her mother then tells her to go get a duck costume that's on her bed. So to hammer home this whole Carly Beth's scared easily. She's cute. She wants to go out as a duck on Halloween. It's all hammered home. And I will give credit to Catherine Long, who plays Carly Beth. She does good.
Yeah, she does a good job of like capturing, those feelings that she's clearly going through of, feeling desperate to be cool when accepted and stuff. And obviously she's bullied a lot, so that doesn't help. And yeah, you can see she's struggling for sure.
Yeah. And the part of that struggle is that she decides she doesn't want to be cute this Halloween. She wants to be scary. We then get one of the dumbest scares in this episode where she's frightened by a younger brother, Noah, played by Cody Jones, who's wearing the duck costume. You actually hear him quacking, like going quack, quack, quack. He opens the door and she's like, screams as he flaps his duck wings at her. And it's like, really, Carly Beth? Really?
Yeah, but they build her up a bit in this like ultimate scaredy cat, don't they? Because she gets bullied where they put I don't know if it's after this, but where they put the worm in the sandwich and stuff like that.
That's literally what comes next. After he calls her a scaredy cat, we go to the next day, and that's a picnic or like a school lunch, I guess it must be, out by some grassy area. Chuck scares her first with a talking pumpkin, then they sort of apologize, but while he's distracting her, Steve puts a worm in her sandwich, which I was like, guys, that's too far. Come on, man.
But before then, like you could say they're being like a bit playful and stuff, and she is just being a bit over the top. But that is pretty disgusting,
That is where we go from just being playful to bullying. She bites into the sandwich, realizes it has a worm in it, and obviously she's disgusted, rightfully so. And everyone just points and laugh at her. And I had a fucking Carrie flashback, man. As well, pointing and laughing at her. All I heard was Margaret White going, "They're all gonna laugh at you."
Yeah, I wonder if that's something he wasn't like helped inspire the whole concept, maybe, because it's got similarities.
There's another episode coming up that does something weird as well. Where I was like, is that a hint to adult horror? And yeah, you might be right.
What's wrong, Carly Beth? Oh, it's the worm!
She's humiliated and she returns home in tears. She sees the duck costume and in a fit tears it apart. Her crying acting isn't great here because it kind of sounds like she's laughing as she's ripping the outfit apart.
Yeah, but I thought that like added more to it. It kind of seems like she's proper like losing it, which kind of leads into the whole mask and how easily susceptible she is to it, maybe. I'm not sure. Could be bad acting, but maybe I'm like giving her too much credit. I'm not sure.
I didn't mind it. That's the thing. I didn't mind it. I was like, I enjoyed watching her in this.
Yeah, it kind of feels like this is her turning point of like, I'm not going to be this anymore, because she tears up the duck costume, which is almost like her innocence. It's like very symbolic.
Cool. Well put. She finds some money and decides to go buy a mask from the new store. Inside, it's obviously pretty old and creepy, and the shop owner does what all good creepy people do, scares her with his arrival. It's weird.
That's going to get you sales.
Well, it's even weirder because he's very unaccommodating and says, like, we're not open. And I'm like,
yeah.
Then lock your fucking door. Like, if you're not open, lock your door.
It's the night before Halloween. It's a Halloween store. If that's enough time he's not open, when are you open, bro?
It is strange because it's like, well, you want people to buy these masks because the whole thing is the evil masks are completely separate to the store, not there to be sold.
Yeah, he puts them in a back room, but then it's obviously like the front of the house is like just a It's just a Halloween store for masks, costumes, props, all that stuff. So he's just a salesman, really. Like, 24/7. That's his job. Presumably, why else does he have this store? Unless like he killed the owner or something. I have no idea.
Get even darker. He ends up being distracted by a phone call as she checks out some masks, but she's less than impressed as she wants something really scary, and then notices another room, so goes in. One that looks more like a lab. It's weird. We go past like rows of bubbling liquid and stuff like that. Your average lab, as it were. And inside, she finds a row of very exceptional looking masks and clever. All of them have this really good look. Did you not think one looked like the Chatterer from Hellraiser?
Yeah, I definitely used to get from one of them very very similar to the Chatterer. Yeah, but they're all really, because they're all real masks, so they've all been like created and designed. I think they are very freakish looking for like a kids show, especially. Like some of them are like quite ghoulish,
Yeah.
They look almost like. And then there's one that's like kind of looks like the Butterball character a little bit, also from Hellraiser, but it looks like the guy's skin, or like literally a guy's skin been torn off. And I guess that's the idea. They're supposed to be like skin that you put over your own type thing.
Yeah, they look good, and she's drawn to one that kind of looks more demonic, very sort of sharp teeth and figure like that. As she goes to touch it, the shop owner interrupts and is pretty angry. Then all we see, like behind him, are all the masks open their eyes as though they're living. He then locks the door and locks her inside, and it's like, okay, guy, what are you doing? This is going to get you in bother. But then he calms down and starts to kind of explain that like the masks she's looking at are not for sale because they're too scary. And he tries to sort of bar off, look, there's a gorilla mask outside. She explains about Chuck and Steve, and he seems like he's kind of taken in by her story of revenge. He's like, okay, you want vengeance, and all right, like he might be up for it, but he still refuses. So she runs up, grabs a mask, and runs outside. She gets a couple of feet outside the door and seems to have a change of heart. She even says, like, what am I doing? Because obviously he's out of character for her. She goes to go back in, but he closes the door and puts a close sign up and just sort of stands there looking at her. And I guess punishment, right?
She's got to learn her lesson now.
Yeah. Back home, she tries it on, and it does look good. It does look good on her, like how it fits and stuff like that. I can't argue that. And she obviously uses it then to scare her brother Noah.
Hey, Noah. Stay away! No! No! Who are you? Why don't you guess?
Here we get your first sort of hint of things to come, as she tries to take off the mask and finds she can't get it off at first. It's very tight. But she does manage to pull it off before going to meet Sabrina. The added touch she adds here of getting a stick, putting her mother's mask that she made of her head on it, and then the red rag underneath it as if it's like blood.
Yeah.
Good imagination.
She's carrying her own decapitated head. Yeah.
I do like it. There's also get some good POV shots from inside the mask. And I was a bit like, that's very Halloween-like.
Yeah, and you can hear her breathing heavy and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's there, Maybe, like I said, maybe stuff you wouldn't appreciate when you're young. When you're old, you're like,
That's why it's fun to go back and watch these things, because like I remember you mentioned her like performance, but I remember like being younger finding her performance like really cringy. But now, there's certain moments because, like you say, it feels almost like overacting at times. I remember when she's in like the store with the guy, and she like sort of like he asks her name, and she like stutters her name, and it's kind of like I remember finding that all sort of stuff kind of cringy, because I guess like when you're younger, you kind of find like girls a little bit cringy or whatever. But when you grow up like our age now, you kind of grow more of an appreciation for the performance of the fact that she's just obviously a young girl. She's it's actually like how I mentioned, I see more of the complexity of it rather than the more obvious stuff.
Yeah, now you mentioned the stuttering of the name. I remember actually thinking I really like that. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I also like as she walks the streets with the mask. She's making noise all the time. She's grunting, laughing, snorting, and shouting and scaring kids. And she thinks she sees Chuck and Steve, but it's just some kids that she scares as well. I kind of like her behavior. A lot of the scenes in the story, I like it.
Yeah, again, like touching one more time on her performance. I can't be sure for certain. I don't know if you can confirm it or whatever, but is it the same actress actually below the mask?
I can't confirm it. I don't know for sure. If
Because
it
some of the
is,
sounds obviously are quite, the growls and whatnot. I mean, if it is her, I'd definitely give her a lot of praise for the performance, because there is quite a contrast between when she's got the mask on and when it's off. So,
and if not, it's someone else. That person did a good bloody job.
yeah.
She meets Sabrina, who is dressed like a cat. They head out, and Sabrina points out how the mask feels like real skin when she touches it. One of the more awkward moments of the episode happens here, as Sabrina begins to hound her about taking the mask off. An infuriated Carly Beth looks to attack Sabrina, and it's like she starts grabbing all that, and that's one of those cuts where it's like, oh, what's happening?
Yeah.
And then when it comes back, it's just she starts laughing, and it's just a lampoon. It was just a simple lampoon, apparently. And the whole point is Carly Beth's having a lot of fun. She's enjoying herself. Sabrina's a little bit disturbed about it, but Carly Beth's enjoying it. And at a house, as they trick or treat, Carly Beth goes out of her way to scare the little kids in the house and is then told off by the mother. She then threatens the mother, grabs a lot of sweets before running off. So she's kind of a right little demon.
I don't know if it's supposed to be some sort of commentary on like Halloween as a whole, on whether or not maybe R.L. Stein, maybe at the time he felt like the horror and like scare factor of Halloween had been lost across time, because everyone else you see, they're all wearing like more cutesy kind of like costumes. No one else is wearing anything scary. Like say Sabrina's a cat, her mother wanted her to be the duck. Steve and Chuck are like pirates. No one else is really trying to be scary. So maybe that was like what he was trying to get at. And when she does attempt to be scary, it's supposed to be kind of the point of Halloween a little bit. People don't like it. It really like throws them off.
Yeah, you are right, actually. Now you think about it. Yeah, all the kids are dressed in like, here's a witch's costume, but there's one that you bought from the dollar store, stuff like that.
Yeah, I just think maybe like the original concept idea behind Halloween was probably like less, it was, probably more about scaring people rather than like the silly fun we have turned it into these days kind of thing.
Yeah, like this Halloween, remove Carly Beth from it, these streets in this Halloween is Disney's version of it. Hocus Pocus, that stuff.
It always makes me really jealous of not living in America sometimes, because of how much they really like go for it. Like we obviously live in England, and if you go out the streets during Halloween, it's very like minimal. No one really puts in much effort. I'd love to have just one time lived on a suburban American street the way they like really everyone does it, and if you're the one that doesn't do it, you're like the weirdo type thing.
Yeah, great. So Sabrina's obviously quite disturbed by Carly Beth's behavior, but Carly Beth blames the mask. I noticed something here that I definitely didn't notice when I was younger, and I loved it. How the mask starts to look like sweat. Like it looks like glistening. The more effort she puts in, you start to notice glisten as if like it is her skin, and she's sweating for a lot of the work she's doing. Yeah,
because it's almost like supposed to be real skin itself. Yeah. So the sweat is like coming through it, like the mask itself has pores,
Carly Beth insists that she's going to enjoy the night, so runs off. And we then cut to Chuck and Steve, who are, as Liam already said, pirates, playing swords outside a cemetery. And then Chuck decides he wants to go in a cemetery. Steve's a little less sure, but they go in anyway. Cut back to Carly Beth, causing a bit of chaos on the streets, destroying pumpkins, pulling down decorations, and scaring kids. Yeah. Steve and Chuck in the cemetery are now dancing and singing. This is a little cheesy. It's weird as they're dancing around yo ho ho, bottle of rum, all that stuff, Pirates of the Caribbean, and then they're like, okay, treasure, and he started to eat the sweets. And Steve even sort of says to him, like, can't we just do this back at your place? It's weird. And there's another scare attempt as Chuck pretends he hears something, but uses an opportunity to put a skull mask on and scare Steve. As luck will have it, Carly Beth is passing the cemetery, hears them, and sneaks in. This time around, when Chuck thinks he hears something, Steve obviously doesn't believe him at first. Don't cry, monster. So Carly Beth sneaks up behind him and scares them, but they kind of stand their ground at first. They're like, oh, who is that? And that kind of thing. She demands an apology for their behavior. They get on their knees, apologize to her fake head, and then the fake head begins to talk, asking for help.
Apologize! Well, I promise you wish you never met her.
Sorry, Carly Beth. I'm sorry. Sorry again.
Help me.
Talked.
Please help me.
like its mouth moves and says, you know, help me. This scares Carly Beth too, but she's happy to see the boys run away.
One of the cheesier effects
Yeah.
from the episode, I think, is when the head comes to life and speaks in her voice. Obviously, and it never had a huge budget, I'm sure, but it's didn't really hold up back then from when I saw it. But it gets across its message fine enough, of course.
Yeah. Thankfully, it's short and quick and kind of passed. Fair enough. Carly Beth howling in happiness was a weird moment. It's like, oh, she's howling now.
Yeah, I think considering I don't know how long the episode is overall, but it's quite like a steady transition. As you can see, she's slowly losing it more and more.
Cool.
Which is done fairly well.
I agree. Because she buries the fake head of Carly Beth in the graveyard and then cartwheels her way out of there. I was like, you go, man. You are having a great night. On the streets, Carly Beth's back in the streets now, and Sabrina comes up behind her, doing that classic horror thing of sneaking up behind someone and then not saying anything and putting your hand on her shoulder. I can't criticize this because our fucking horror movies do this still.
Yeah. Very true.
Sabrina, says she was looking for her and asks a million questions. Even I was like, shut up, Sabrina. How many more questions? They go into Sabrina's house and Carly Beth tries to take the mask off, but finds she can't. And that it even hurts to try and pull it off her.
Good idea. Ouch. Carly Beth, what is it? The mask. It won't come off. Really?
She begins to freak out, obviously, and Sabrina tries to help her, but finds there's no line between the skin and mask. Carly Beth looks in the mirror and finds the same, and she also notices that the eyes are not her own. Scared, she runs off, and outside she tries to get some help from a group of kids, but they're all too scared of her. They run off, so she kind of got her wish. A strong sequence here. Strong sequence for her behavior.
Yeah, I remember this scene particularly well. This is the one that would stick with me. I think that I really thought about it is the fact that you see it melded to her flesh. I just think it's quite, for a kid's show, it's quite really takes it as far as it can probably go with that kind of thing. It's definitely the sort of thing that would scare a child for sure. And I remember also this episode, I think because of its length, may have actually been split into two parts, because I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure at that moment after where she's freaking out and can't get it off, that it would also that'd be the end of the first part of the episode, and then there'd be a second part to it.
True. I didn't watch this. I watched this in one block, so I don't know where the to be continued was, but that does kind of make sense. Touched upon it as well is when she does look in the mirror. So when we see the mask, we see it and it would have a cut around the neck, not much further than the neck of the size of it. But when they do in the mirror, what they obviously did was added the prosthetics. So she pulls her top down to about there, and you can still see this. You can see it's the demon skin.
Yeah, it's almost like it's growing fully over her entire body,
that's kind of what I got from it.
Yeah.
So obviously the plan, where else can she go? She goes back to the shop she took from it and goes inside. I do love the fact that as she literally runs to the door, he opens it and is like, "Yeah, been expecting you." He tells her he can't remove the mask because it's not a mask; it is a real face.
I was expecting you.
Get it off me.
I know.
Please take it off me. I want it off right now.
I cannot do that. I cannot remove the mask.
We do get a lot of detail here about why or who he is. And he says basically he made beautiful masks that decayed no matter what he did. The unloved ones, he calls them. He made them to hide his own lack of self-love, and it was that what caused the decay. So it's a suggestion that he's quite monstrous underneath the mask and that he wanted to hide that, but because of his own twisted mind, whenever he put one of these pretty faces on, it would eventually decay and become the monster it is.
Yeah, maybe that's what the whole warts on the face thing is about, is that you're supposed to think that he is hideous or something because of these warts he has, and that's why he wore masks, because people judged him for that or something.
He actually explains that. He says he looks in the mirror and he basically he touches and he says, "This mask, this face is becoming like the others," which is, I guess, where the warts are coming. So seemingly it's another mask that's going to decay over time.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's true.
He does tell her that the mask isn't coming off, and basically it's her face now. She breaks down, and he seems to feel bad, so suggests there might be a chance. He asks her how many times she's taken it off before. She says once. That seems to be mostly irrelevant because the real thing is a symbol of love. Something, I guess, that she was gifted or given that portrays love.
That old power of love, man, defeats everything.
Yeah, basically. And thankfully, as you would know from the very start of the episode, we have something in about that. Her panic does wake up the other masks, though, who float about and chase after Carly Beth, asking her to join them.
Cheesy effect number 2.
This is not a good effect.
What's happening? What are they doing?
Run! Run!
I mean, it's obviously creepy them coming after her and their voices and whatnot, but just they're all blurry and stuff when they're floating around. It doesn't look great.
No. And it goes on a little bit too long because they chase her into a graveyard where she digs up the fake head and they circle around her. She holds up the head as basically it's a symbol of her mother's love for her. So that plot device came back. Good stuff. The masks all run off, basically, or float off, and she's able to take the haunted mask off. To me, it's a little bit of a lackluster finale, but probably the only way it could be resolved. Like, there's no other clear where we go.
It could have been dragged out further, but it's like kind of a quick conclusion, and like you said, it doesn't make no sense. So
yeah. With the mask off, she finds it's just a mask again. And back home, she comes back home and Noah scares her by pretending to wear a scary mask. Things are basically back to normal. She hugs her mum, tries to explain, but in the background, you hear Noah laughing. Now, one of the things we're touching that R.L. Stine used to love to do in Goosebumps is he often liked to end on a bit of a darker tone, something extra where it's a bit like, oh, okay. And that was always kind of fun. I guess that's part of the appeal, right? Is that it wasn't totally geared towards children.
Yeah, that there would always be some kind of, like you say, twist or something that would end it on, like you say, a darker note.
And the twist here is that Noah put the mask on behind her, and it ends with him laughing with the mask on, and that's the end of the episode.
Trick or treat!
Yeah.
And that's obviously like a bit of a dropped, doesn't really continue that plot line beyond that, does it?
I had a thought about that. So I was like, okay, Haunted Mask 2, does that pick up from where we left off? But I was like, well, no, Noah will be able to get it off. Like, presumably Carly Beth was able to take it off straight away.
That's true. But it took quite a while for it to really meld to her. So yeah.
But, I think this is a strong opening duo, a strong set of opening episodes that kind of set up and feel very, very, very true to what occurs in this book.
Yeah, I mean, I've never read the book, so would you say it's like accurate to the text?
Yeah, I do. It's been a long time since I read it, but it's one that always stuck in my head. This, the likes of Monster Blood and stuff like that, are the ones that kind of stuck in my head the most. And this, I thought, felt very, very accurate. But as like a TV show and an episode in a sort of kiddified horror genre, I think it could scare young kids.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's capable of scaring young kids. Compared to the kind of stuff you would find on TV today, I think it's obviously of a different era. And I think it took it as far as it probably could in terms of making a horror show for young kids or young teens. And it was effective in what it did. And I think it's definitely a very solid starting point. I was going to say you should take a shot every time someone says Carly Beth in that episode, because it's a lot.
I can only hear Sabrina saying it over and over again. Carly Beth.
It's a silly name, isn't it? Really.
It is.
It's two first names melded together, man.
It's presumably because when I got the name off the credits, it doesn't even have a hyphen in between. It's Carly Beth.
Really? That's even stranger. Maybe that's strange.
And on that note, then, we'll wrap it up there. Episodes 1 and 2 of Season 1, The Haunted Mask. Let us know your thoughts of it in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon and help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?